This is blowing me away. Check this out. Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and I am back with not just one, but 2 Norway trip videos. My wife and I spent a week in Norway and we had a fantastic time. So, in these videos, we're going to explore 3 cities in Norway. We're going to be taking in some of the absolutely beautiful scenery. We're going to visit a heavy metal music store unlike any other. We're also going to check out a retro gaming store for some of those sweet, sweet import games. We're going to sample some of the local food, plus go to the biggest retro gaming expo in the country. And then we're also going to discover an unreleased Sega game. That was pretty wild, and just so much more. At the end of the second video, I'm going to show you all of the really cool stuff that I picked up. This was an action-packed week in Norway, so let's get started. Oh man, the alarm clock wakes me up at 5:04 a.m. and it's time to get ready to head to the airport. Thing is, this is going to be a very long day. The plan is we're going to first fly to Los Angeles because sadly for this trip there were no direct flights to Norway from Seattle. We are at the airport. It is 6:40 in the morning. I am very tired. We have a long day of travel. We're going to first go to LA, and then from there we have a 10-hour flight to Norway. Wish me luck. I know, it's going to hurt. However, the moment that we get to SeaTac Airport, oh man, we get bad news. Good thing we checked the board because our first flight, is an hour late. But thankfully we have, hopefully, enough time in between flights that it shouldn't be a problem. We'll see. Now that is a little bit worrying, but we did pack in a couple extra hours in between that to make sure that we could have enough time to get to that airport. Because if you fly a lot, you know that LAX is a very chaotic airport. It's one of the most annoying in the entire country, in my opinion. We're in Los Angeles and trying to go get our luggage and then go through TSA again so that we can eventually move on to Norway. Thankfully, we gave ourselves a bit of a buffer and we finally hop on to that Norwegian flight. This is going to be a 9.5-hour flight to Norway, so it's going to be a very long flight. However, again, I prepared for this. I had a lot of reading material, video games, and I'm going to try to sleep on this plane.
Welcome to Oslo Airport. Time here is 10:10 a.m. and the outside temperature is 16 degrees Celsius.
Norway is 9 hours ahead of Seattle. So when we finally land, it's 10 a.m. the next day. It's so weird, right? Man, jet lag is real. We're picked up at the airport by Brad, who is a local retro game store owner that has offered to show us around. So basically what I did here is that, the expo was going to be on the weekend, but because it's such a long flight, and because we're going to Norway, I want to have some time to check it out, right? Why go all that way if you're not going to actually experience the country? And so it's very cool that they allowed me to do this. And Brad was right there. He offered to do this. He offered to pick us up and basically just make sure that we don't get lost, but also he shared some of his favorite places. And we're actually going to be touring his store in a little bit as well. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to stay in Oslo. So that is the biggest city in Norway, and it's also the country's capital. Norway is about the same size as the entirety of the west coast of the United States. So think about Washington State, Oregon, and California combined. That's how long Norway is. Now, we're only in Norway for a week, so we're not going to be able to explore everything, but we're going to do our best. But that said, we're starting in Oslo, which is a really great start to this. And, right outside of our Airbnb, the first thing I noticed actually is just how the downtown area looks so modern. Has a lot of really cool architecture. And I guess I was thinking that, Oslo was founded during the Viking Age, like 1,000 years ago or something like that. And yet, when you look around here, especially downtown, it just looks incredibly modern. One of the first things we do is we check out the world famous Opera House. And this place is wild because essentially you get to walk on the roof and you get this really nice view of the city. And like this building is an absolute trip. I've never seen anything quite like it. I guess they call it shaped like an iceberg. And you can definitely see that when you look at it from afar. And it kind of just goes right down to the edge of the water. It has all these really cool hard angles like an iceberg. And then as you see here, tons of people are walking on its roof all the way up to the top to get that really great view of the city. I have a question for you. What does it look like that statue is holding? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Norway is famous for black metal, and you brought me to a metal
Nosebleed.
The Nosebleed, so
Real metal name.
yes,
Nice.
you can check it out.
All right.
Norway is the birthplace of black metal, and we hear that there is a world famous music store called Nosebleed Records. So Brad offers to take us there. He knows I'm really into music, and I gotta tell you guys, this place is legit. As you see by this footage here, top to bottom, wall to wall, nothing but metal and hard rock music. I've never seen anything quite like it. It just goes on and on forever. Every time I turned around or looked in a bin, I was just blown away by how much metal music was here. And it's wild too, because I go to a lot of music stores, I travel a lot, and usually they'll have like a dedicated section, maybe a couple hundred albums or so, but no, not like this place, man. It's like it is all metal all the time. But then we learn that there is this little narrow staircase that I didn't even notice when I came in here that leads to this basement where there used to be a recording studio and a full museum that was dedicated to just black metal music. And so we go down this thing. I'm just like, what is happening here, right? And then there's just even more music and collectibles down here. It almost feels like a medieval dungeon. It's just creepy and weird and very cool. Now, we were warned this did look very different just even a couple months ago because I guess they had a fire down here that was pretty significant and they took a lot of damage. So right now they're just building it back up. If you go to Norway and you want to check this out, I suspect in the future it'll be even more like a museum. But even so, again, I've just never been anything quite like it, especially with a music store. So it was pretty awesome. We're going to do a bit more sightseeing in the future, but for now I'm kind of snacky and hungry, and Brad recommends this donut shop that's just around the corner from our hotel. It's called Tailor Made, super friendly staff in there, and as you can see by these donuts, oh my gosh, they looked amazing. They were very tasty. Brad knows that we loved going to Japan, and he recommended we check out this Japanese-inspired store called Neo Tokyo. It was kind of a mix of a Japanese kombini or convenience store mixed with a variety store. They had snacks and collectibles, but they also had a few arcade games too, which I thought was pretty interesting. They definitely nail that Japanese vibe. It was very weird coming in here because, yeah, I pictured myself back in Tokyo here. But we're actually going to see the store a little bit later because they're going to show up with a booth at the Retro Gaming Expo too. So that is our first day in Norway, and we are going to call it an early night. Jet lag is kicking our butts, and we want to start fresh the next day. I already did kind of a boo-boo because I brought my phone, I brought my Apple Watch, I brought my iPad, my game consoles, but I can't charge them because I didn't look to see how the power works in Norway. I kind of made an assumption I'd be able to just plug things in. Nope, has a different type of plug, and they're on 220 volts. So if I was trying to do that, it actually would fry it. So what I ended up having to get is one of these. This is like a really neat little adapter. Not only does it have the right plug, but actually it will convert the voltage so you won't fry your stuff. So good to know. Now we're going to get out of Oslo and we're going to travel south for a few hours. And in the car, it's funny because I'm very much reminded of the Pacific Northwest as we drive down this highway. As you see by this footage, there's lots of rolling hills, there's green trees and plant life just everywhere. It's very beautiful. As a matter of fact, in the Seattle area, we have a section of Seattle called Ballard. And that's actually known for having a large Scandinavian heritage because well over 100 years ago, a lot of immigrants from that part of the world came to help establish what was then the city of Ballard. And I can see why, because comparing the two, they're very similar in how they look. I mean, looking around, I was like, oh yeah, this kind of looks like the San Juan Islands up in, the Pacific Northwest for sure. About 2.5 hours south, we roll into a small town called Craigero for lunch. This is a very small, quiet little town with a really pretty waterway that's running through the middle of it. We actually walked around the town here a bit and also down by the pier, along the water. Yeah, it was very pretty. We stopped and had lunch along the waterfront, and oh man, it was super fresh and really tasty, but it was also a bit pricey, especially compared to what I'm used to paying back at home in Seattle. I've had several people ask me if I think that Norway is expensive, and the answer is, on some things, absolutely, especially when you go out to dinner. So to give you an idea here, all three of us here, this entire meal was $80 US. Actually, it was a little bit more than that. So that's kind of expensive for lunch, especially depending on where you come from. I mean, but as you can see, the food was definitely high quality, and it's nice because you're really not expected to tip either. So, that's something to consider. Another thing to consider about Norway is that the weather can change quite easily. So it was definitely starting to turn on us a bit as we drove south, starting to get a little bit more rainy, a little bit more windy. A few more hours south, we ended up at a town called Kristiansand. This is where Brad lives, and it's also here where we're going to check out his retro gaming store called Grizzly Games. It was pretty funny because the whole time Brad was telling us, oh, my retro gaming store is pretty small, we're a bit new, we're just building it all up, etc. But actually, this place was pretty legit. This is bigger than you let on.
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Oh, nice. I'm pleased you say that.
Yeah. It's funny because the way he described it or was setting us up was almost like it was going to be like a closet or something like that. I think he didn't want us to be disappointed because he knows I do see a lot of retro gaming stores. But no, man, it's like I walked in here, I was like, yeah, it was like legit. And I was seeing some pretty high-end collectibles here, especially I noticed right off the bat these development kits on display. So I have to ask about the dev units. Where did you get all those?
Well, it was actually, you wouldn't believe this, but I got them all within the space of about 10 days.
Wow.
The first two I got a trade in. Someone sent me a picture of a couple of PlayStation 2 games that were less desirable ones, and I thought, right, here we go.
Yeah.
And then the next picture he sent me was it was a game with Haunting Ground in, and two others. So I was like, oh wow, okay. There's some good games there. The third picture was a sealed Zelda Collector's Edition for the GameCube. I was like, wow, okay then. And then the fourth picture was a Katana Dreamcast dev kit. I was like blown away.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy. So let me ask: Is there a? I mean, were they developers in Scandinavia, or do you know that?
That's true. Well, the Dolphin one I have was used by developers in Kristiansand, the town we're in now.
Really?
And
Okay, cool.
that was given to my friend as a gift. So he believes that the other two are probably they were. I got them from a collection not so far away from here, so
Yeah.
it's an assumption. But we think the three of them were used here. Definitely not the DS ones because I bought them from the UK. But
Yeah.
the three bottom ones
Those are
the PlayStation as well.
those
So
are really-
so, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Over on this wall here too, he had a bunch of special edition consoles like that Crystal Xbox, which I kind of want. This is something I've been looking for quite a while, actually. I've never seen one in person. It's always a thrill to see popular common games, but in other countries with unique covers. I just kept finding these here. Again, I'm not going to buy them because I don't need 2 copies of some of these games, but I love looking at those unique covers, right? So cool. And of course, you have here an iconic N64 kiosk. So cool. I always love the bubble
Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
It's my personal favourite, and when I first started collecting, actually, it was always the holy grail item that I was like, one day I will have one, and it never come along, and I was like, when, like, you know, and then it was actually ironic. I started a YouTube channel myself, and I haven't made it, you know, such a big thing, but I've done a video about my collection of the GameCube kiosk, and then a fellow Norwegian collector reached out to me and was like, you need an N64 kiosk, and I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, well, it's funny because my friend has one in his garage, you know, and it was in a place called Skien, and I basically, I didn't hang around. I said, okay, no problem, like, let's come fix it, and it was so big we couldn't get it completely in my car, so I'm thankful it was a nice summer's day because me and my brother had the trunk open.
Oh, really?
We was driving.
You're stronger?
Yeah. Like, we had a couple of straps on, but I wouldn't put bets on it not holding. So but it was a fun adventure, and it's, you know, it's part of the enjoyment of having, you know, this. We went through pain to get it, and it looks great.
If you can't tell, Brad's got a real passion for retro games, and his goal is basically to help build up the community here in Norway and help grow the scene, which I think he's going to do. He's got that passion, man. He's got that fire.
So you've been open for a couple months. How the hell do you have this many consoles?
My wife would testify by my crazy collecting in general.
Okay.
But I've had a few, like, lots of people have reached out to me, as I said, like, trying to do trade-ins and buying collection buyouts. But a few months ago, I bought out a pre-existing shop. There was one in a place called Tonsberg, called Lederhuset, and they closed down after 30 years, and he cut me a really good deal, and I bought all of his old stock, so this is all the stuff that wasn't tested, and I'm just working my way.
Because I'm wondering how many of these 360s actually work.
I've got a funny. There's probably a higher percentage than most of the other stuff, but
and what's that?
That's Shantae for the Game Boy Color, and honestly, I was so surprised when I found that on a Facebook group in Norway, and you're not going to believe this. I paid a lot of money for it, right?
Yeah.
But the guy, I said, just for a laugh, please tell me how much you paid for it. He's a young kid who started collecting, right? I don't know. I think he's about 17. He paid 100 crowns for that, which is literally $10, and the cheapest one I've seen on eBay in the UK is 750 pounds. So it's
wow.
I think I'm actually selling it underpriced, and that's still $8,000 for a loose Game Boy game. It's quite crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome.
But we aren't done yet, because he's like, dude, you got to check out this Pinball Club. And he kept calling it a club, which I didn't really understand what he meant until we got there. Basically, this is a members-only warehouse where people can come and hang out, you can play some pinball, but also you can repair and maintain them. You can learn how to do that there, and you can also store them there if you need to. But it's not just pinball. As you see here, there's a bunch of classic arcade games too, and I guess the club is open to the public a couple times a week, so others can come and enjoy them as well, but their goal here is to really build up the retro gaming community in that area. They're trying to share the knowledge, but also just have a good time. So yes, while you can come on some of the public days, but they really want you and encourage you to join that club and contribute to the retro gaming community. And then they mentioned that they got something kind of cool there. They have an unreleased Sega Mega Drive game.
Hi, my name is Petter Kvalvik. I made this Mega Drive game in 91, 92, and it's have never been released officially, but it was out on Sega Channel for a short period of time in 94, 95, I think. Okay, so the game is about a guy who is going to go around the world and clean up the environment. So he started in New York and picking up trash and going to the rainforest and clean up there, and he ends up in Chernobyl to clean up the nuclear waste, and that's the last level of the game. So it's around, I think it's 35 different stages on the game, all around the world. So yeah, it was in the period of time when environmental was really on the map, so that's why we decided to make a game around that.
Yeah, so that was a total surprise. Again, just walking in here and learning that there is a unreleased Sega Mega Drive / Genesis game. That was pretty cool, I thought. So super nice, guys. That was a really fun little detour here. After that, we grabbed some late dinner at a tasty Italian restaurant and then walked a little bit around in the rain. just to try to, basically kind of work off dinner a little bit. But man, as you can see here, the wind and the rain, whew, it was brutal. So I think we're going to call it a night.
Just a little bit windy and rainy, huh?
Yeah, it's a little bit like home, actually. So
A little close to home.
a little close to
sure.
home. Although it's not cold.
No. Yeah.
Woke up the next morning to just beautiful clear skies and warm weather. Amazing how it can change so radically here. We were told by the front desk that the hotel includes a breakfast, and so we thought we'd check it out. Wow. Okay, this is incredible. In the US, a lot of hotel breakfasts are small and frankly not very good at all. That's been my experience when I travel in the US, right? Especially the hotels. I'm not staying in the Ritz, Hilton, or any of that stuff. I'm staying at, the modestly priced hotels. They are nothing like this hotel here. I was like amazed how huge this breakfast was. As you see here, there's just tons of freshly made food to choose from, but not only a bunch of meats, but you also have fresh baked bread, pancakes, fruits, vegetables. Oh my gosh, their scrambled eggs were incredible. As you can see, it just went on and on and on. It was overwhelming and also incredibly tasty. After a big breakfast like that, I needed to walk around the city a bit. Rebecca was still back in the room, kind of chilling out. And I don't know if it's the result of the time differences or the jet lag, but when I travel like this, often I end up getting up way earlier than most of the locals. So while I was walking around here, the city was actually pretty quiet. It wasn't crowded, and it was just so nice walking around. It was really cool to do this. That is not a bad view. And I didn't really know where I was going, and that was kind of part of the fun. I'm just on my phone looking at a map of this town and going, okay, looks like there's water over there. Maybe there's a bridge. I'll go ahead and head towards that. And wow, yeah, it's like I ran into this park that was kind of near the hotel. Gorgeous views of the water. They also had some art kind of sprinkled around, and they had some swans and ducks swimming in the water. It was just like, wow, so cool. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day to walk around in Norway. I just kept walking and, just kind of trying to get lost a little bit. We have a couple hours before we're going to meet up with Brad, and notice that these cobblestones that were laid in the sidewalk here along these rows of houses and kind of small businesses. Again, something that was really kind of cute and quaint. This really pretty walking bridge across this canal. Again, just kind of getting lost in the city here. Kind of going into this central area where people are kind of hanging out and sort of waking up, having their coffee. After a couple of hours of exploring the city, we meet up with Brad, and we're going to head up to Sandefjord, which is the town that has the Retro Gaming Expo that we're going to attend on the weekend. But Brad is pretty funny because, the whole time he's talking about how we've got to try the Norwegian version of a hot dog. And Rebecca and I are like, okay, we like hot dogs, fine, I guess, and we'll try pretty much anything, not a big deal. But he was like, nope, you got to try them. We got to get them at Circle K. So I was like, sure, dude, let's do it, right? They were pretty dang tasty, I'm not gonna lie. The other thing they had that was kind of surprising was a hamburger patty also shaped like a hot dog, which I thought was pretty brilliant, right? So instead of using a hamburger bun, you would use a hot dog bun. Again, I just thought that's a pretty smart idea. We also got addicted to these Norwegian chocolate-covered wafers. I don't know if they're filled with crack or what, but man, they were so sweet and very tasty. Sandefjord is the town where we're going to be spending the next couple days because, like I said, that's actually where the Retro Gaming Expo is. And that's really the whole reason why I flew up here. And so we're going to be staying here, and it's a very cute little town. It only has about 65,000 people, so it's not too big. It's not very crowded. It's got a lot of water, a lot of views. It's, like I said, very beautiful. Now, for some reason, the expo didn't put us up in town at a hotel. They actually put us 5 miles out of town in a campground with a view, which is kind of an odd choice because I think it's because they knew that I was going to be doing a travel video, so they wanted to put me someplace where it was really pretty. But it is kind of odd to be out of town so far, especially initially. I didn't actually even have a car. And so when we came into our Airbnb out there, we were a little bit stranded. But as you can see here, the view was just gorgeous. And so we are ready for the next leg of this adventure. And so that's where I'm going to leave it in part 1 of this travel video to Norway. In the next video, we're going to explore the entire Retro Messe Expo. So many cool games there, so many awesome imports. I did pick up a ton of stuff. We're going to explore more of Sandefjord. We're also going to take a train back up to Oslo to do a bit more exploring there. And I'm going to show you everything that I picked up. So definitely stay tuned for that video. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.